Phillies on top.
But this club just does not die.
He's under it. He's got it. And the game is over. Hoskins swung on, crushed, and the Phillies are going to lead it 4-0. Just a towering fly ball to straightaway left. Schwarber was ready. Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top.
And welcome back to the first of hopefully many positive post-game shows for the Phillies playoffs. I'm Adam Mack, joined alongside the legend, Mr. Chip. Chip, how's it going today?
10 more, Topper.
10 more. 10 more.
10 more, Topper. Listen, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. You know, there's some things to talk about, but the bottom line is they got the win.
I know the one thing you want to talk about is I want to talk about it too. We'll get into Rob Thompson's decision to pull Ranger a little bit later. So that's going to take a majority of the show. But let's talk about some other different things. And there's one underrated play I want to talk about. Probably helped seal the game. Obviously, the Trey Turner diving stop, phenomenal, game-saving play. But it was actually the Johan Rojas play. He struggled offensively, a million strikeouts. I don't think he made contact with the ball at all. But how underrated was that move to not be the hero to try to throw out Acuna that held, I think it was Albies, or no, it was Albies at first base?
I think that one of the things that we've seen over the last couple seasons is defensively in the outfield, we've been shaky. And it was kind of like a domino falling once Bryce Harper was not able to play right field. You had plans of Schwarber being your DH and then Castellanos. And I think that guys like Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas have kind of solidified the position of outfield defense, which is vital because you have the big bats. So it was a vital play. I think it was a very ordinary play for a good outfielder to make. And it did exactly what he needed to do. The moment wasn't too big for Rojas in the field, which is big considering, he came up from the minors this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's an underrated move because you can talk about all the big plays that you can go on Twitter. Like the Trey stop was just phenomenal. But for me, it was a veteran move, especially in this type of situation. For a guy that, like you said, in July was playing in AA and then made the jump to the MLB, bypassing AAA. I thought it was an underrated move, in the whole grand scheme of things of, game one for the Phillies.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's so tough with a 5-game series. It's tough with a 3-game series, but the Phillies came out and they dominated the Marlins, and this team is built for postseason baseball. But for them to then go into Atlanta in a not sellout environment, I don't know what the national broadcasters were saying, but there were empty seats all over. In a not sellout environment, Atlanta doesn't do anything for me as an overall sports city. And for them to go in against a true, legitimate ace, that I am one of the harshest critics when it comes to that ace terminology. Strider is an ace. He went in, he gave them 7 innings of great baseball, which is exactly what you expected from him. He pitched exactly how you expected him to, and the Braves were shut down. They're incredibly high-powered offense with all of these franchise records and these first-inning home runs, and this guy does this, and, Acuna is going to be the MVP, and great. But you struck out in the biggest moments. In game one. And that's a tone setter. I think that, having 6 days off, it wore you down a little bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was I was so scared to see Strider because, he's been arguably one of the, if not the best pitchers in baseball this year. But the big thing about getting to Strider was you weren't going to put up 7 runs on this Braves team like you did against the Marlins. You weren't even going to probably put up 5 runs.
Nope.
All you needed to get was 1. And I think getting to Strider early, like first inning, I love that the Phillies, got to him. I thought the first inning was going to be key for them.
Yeah,
Some
lead off double,
pretty
get right in
bad
your head.
base running issues, but once he settled in, he was absolutely lights out. But to get to him in just a few minimal mistakes is, it's big for especially like a guy like Strider. Like he only makes a few mistakes. And fortunately for the Phillies, they capitalized on those mistakes. This game could have gone a lot differently.
And that's what a World Series caliber team does, right? We talk about this all the time. It's the teams that miss their opportunities, especially at the major league level. You only get so many opportunities to capitalize, especially when it comes to a guy like Strider. So the fact that they capitalize on every single mistake that he made, and there weren't a ton, but you throw a pitch right over the middle of the plate to Bryce Harper and he makes you pay. You throw a pitch right over the middle of the plate to Schwarber in the first inning, the first batter, and he makes you pay. Now, his base running, his Johnny Depp style of running isn't ideal. But again, they made sure that they took care of business every opportunity that they had.
Absolutely. I think it was key. Like in this game, all we needed was one. You needed that one run. And that's why I think the pitching was such a big part. And I think that can good, I know. I can sense it coming already. We can get into the big topic. Ranger Suarez was pulled after 3 2/3, 1 hit, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, only 53 pitches. Obviously, at the moment, every single Phillies fan was pulling out their hair, was screaming at Rob Thompson. Fortunately for everyone, the plan went perfectly. However, now that the game is out, we've won the game. How do you feel about Ranger Suarez being pulled in the 4th inning?
So there is a lot to unpack with this one decision. Now, obviously, it worked, right? Obviously, it worked. So Rob Thompson looks like a genius. Had it not worked, Rob Thompson would have looked like an absolute moron. So again, it's really all about the execution when it comes to it. So kind of looking at the whole thing, the second hit that he gave up was a bad play by Trey Turner. You know what I mean? That was just it. You go to first base, 2 outs, plays at first, guys. I mean, if you've been on a baseball field for 5 minutes, you know that. But he didn't. He took the shorter route, and it didn't work out the way it needed to. If you look at Ranger Suarez's demeanor after being pulled, that is probably, to me, the most concerning thing about it all. He looked like he was on the verge of tears. He looked completely sullen and let down and depressed by it. And it didn't matter who went over. Then you see him frantically going through the iPad to see the things that he did wrong and he could have changed. I think as a confidence point, that's a problem. You know what I mean? I love that he was upset. I love that he was upset for, future starts. My concern is that he didn't pitch poorly. He pitched really well. He had good stuff. And he went into game 1 for a second straight year and had good stuff. And you pull him after 2 hits, one of which wasn't really his fault. I think that, when you're humming along, most of pitching is a mental game. If you have this stuff, great. But then it goes into the mental piece. And Ranger Suarez is one of the most low-key guys on this team. So for him to be worked up the way he was, it says a lot to me. Now, he's going to get another opportunity to pitch, whether that is a game 4 or game 5, with the spacing out, whether that is game 1 of the NLCS. We just don't know. But if he goes in there and goes, oh, man, I gave up my first hit of the game and is already going to start checking the bullpen to see if anyone's warming up, I think that says a lot. Then you go to the bullpen side of things. I mean, look, it worked out great in the sense of we didn't use a lot of pitching in our wild card series. We have the day off tomorrow. That's great. But I really don't want to see Lorenzen in the playoffs. I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to see Lorenzen in the playoffs. Orion pitched great in that first inning. Then there was a very long bottom half of that inning or top half of that inning. That should have been it. You shouldn't have even sent him out. You're talking, again, the logic of the mentality of a pitcher, and in this situation, the mentality of a reliever. It worked this time. And where I trust Topper more than like a Joe Girardi is okay, it worked this time, and he'll evaluate it each time before he does it. Whereas Girardi goes, nope, that's what we're doing from here on out, every which way. You get to 3 2/3, and then you're done. So again, it worked out, and you have Wheeler going on Monday, so you expect to not have to use too much of the bullpen, but you also let Atlanta see your entire bullpen today.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise when Orion trots out in game 2 because you already saw him. There's no surprise when Lorenzen comes out, except to Phillies fans who don't want to see Lorenzen. I just think that it was a very quick hook and maybe not the right call for the long term. Yes, we got the win, but at the long term, what does it present?
I think so. The big thing about Ranger going out, like, Topper said from the start, he was going to be aggressive with the bullpen. I remember tweeting about it right before he got pulled. I'm like, he's dealing right now. He looks comfortable. Like, as always, he's so calm and like he's so like monotone. Like he never looks under pressure. And to see his reaction afterwards, like it wasn't much. I would rather, as a Phillies fan, much rather have his reaction coming out of the game than Strider's reaction being pulled from the game. I think
Strider shouldn't have been pulled either. But again, you have a long series.
Yeah. I think seeing Strider's reaction was a lot. I'd be more scared as a Braves fan seeing that, because that's going to be something tough to be out there. He's a competitor. He wants to be out there. He wants to compete. I get that. But in that situation, the Phillies are starting to get Strider's number. But when it comes to Suarez, I think they pulled him too early. And even looking at it, the Trey Turner play wasn't even ruled a hit. It was a fielder's choice.
That's what I'm saying.
So, like, it really was one hit. He was that 2 batters away from literally being perfect. He was perfect through, or no, he had no hitter going through 3. Like, he was dealing against one of the best Braves the best lineups in baseball. He was perfect. So, did I expect him to go 7-8 innings today? No, I was expecting him to probably get to the 5th inning. But the other thing, like you said, like,
hindsight real quick, had he gotten that out, had Trey Turner fielded it and thrown it all the way to first and gotten the out, does he go back out for the 5th?
I don't think he would have. I think that was it.
With one hit? With what? That's my question. And Uncle Larry chiming in here, I agree. They did pull him early, but they pulled it out. Again, and that's when all's said and done, the how of it all is great. They got the win, or the final result is great. The how is where we get to nickel and dime and question it.
I think with the move, like one thing say, we showed the Braves our hand, but I think also one thing we noticed with a lot of the Phillies pitchers, especially what we saw in the Marlins series, once you get into that second, third time seeing the pitchers, seeing the hitters, you start to recognize a lot of different things. And with this Braves lineup, with Strider also pitching, the wiggle room wasn't there. We could not give up a lot of runs. So as soon as Ranger got tired, he was going to start pitching himself into jams. I think getting the fresh arms in there was going to help the Phillies get out of jams, which they did throughout the game. Because with Strider on the mound, like, we're not going to get 5-6 runs. We're not going to be able to get that leeway. Like, oh, we can have a reliever come in and give up a run or two. We couldn't afford to give up anything.
Right. And I think, speaking to the whole getting tired thing, I mean, even my wife was saying it, right? He was starting to bounce balls in the dirt. He was starting to finish high. So, I mean, he was obviously getting tired. So I agree. He wouldn't have gone back out for the 5th. But you got to let him finish it when he's thrown as well as he has.
Mm-hmm.
He threw well. His pitches were working. They couldn't hit him. They couldn't touch him. And again, you tipped your hand a little bit. Again, they got the win. So overall, I'm happy with that. But does it have long-term ramifications? Because that's going to be the talking point that all the talking heads discuss moving forward.
Yeah, I think we did show them a lot of our hand, but also showed you the resiliency of how deep of a bullpen we have.
Oh my God, when did that happen?
This bullpen if this game was 2 years ago, oh my God, we would have lost 10-3. Like, it would have been atrocious. To show you, like, even Hoffman, who's struggled a lot throughout the season, he pitched out of a jams. Alvarado, again, phenomenal. We didn't have to use Soto, who's kind of stepped up a lot more in the last couple of weeks. Thank God Michael Lorenzen didn't sniff the field.
No, he did.
Yeah, to walk out there for introductions.
Lorenzen pitched. Strom pitched. Sorry, I confused the two of them.
They're identical. One's a righty, one's a lefty. But now I think also like with Ranger preview, like even take this start out of it. Ranger also wasn't a guy who usually went 6-7 innings. He usually maxed out around the 5th inning. So
correct.
I think now also we don't expect Wheeler to be taken out in the 4th inning. I don't foresee.
I don't
that,
expect
unless
anyone to
things
even go out
really
and talk to him by the 4th inning. Leave him alone.
Wheeler's the type of guy that he's gonna go to the 6th inning, hopefully to the 7th or 8th. Same thing with Nola, because Nola's can be an ace. He's
Ace-like.
Ace-like, and I hate to say it, but he almost is due for one.
And so I've decided, because I am exhausted of having this conversation with Phillies fans. And you know what? I will concede at this point that Aaron Nola is indeed an ace.
Oh, good. About time.
How? No. Asterisk. He's a blackjack ace. So he's either an 11 or a 1, depending on the night.
Oh, that's nerve-wracking for Wednesday night. That's really nerve-wracking for Wednesday night.
It's extremely nerve-wracking. But again, he pitched incredible in the Marlins series. He pitched well at the end of the regular season. I'm just going to sit here and not speak things into existence, but I expect our ace, Zach Wheeler, to come out and pitch very well on Monday.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Game 2. Look ahead to that. If you are Rob Thompson, what is going to be your priority heading into Game 2? What are you going to emphasize? You can emphasize going, keeping Wheeler good, look more long-term for the World Series, or are you going, let's get Game 2, let's go all out?
I really like that the Phillies mantra is, the kind of the countdown idea, because it lets you know that each game is vital. So 10 more topper, right? Here, this game is a must win. And in my mind, every game at this point is a must win. So I trust Zach Wheeler to do what he needs to do. So if I'm Rob Thompson, I am making sure that I have my best defensive bats in the lineup. Meaning I need guys that can play defense, and if they can put the bat on the ball, that's great too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm almost rolling out the same lineup.
So if you're Rob Thompson, you sending out the same lineup. Is there any changes? There's really in reality 2 positions with 3 players that are in conversation. Rojas in center, Marsh in left, or Christian Pasha. Really, there's going to be any other changes to defensive alignments unless Bryce Harper, for some reason, can now play shortstop and Trey Turner plays first. And
I don't really think it's out of the realm of possibility. I roll out the same lineup. I keep the hot hands. I keep Christian Pache on the back burner, so we're not tipping it. As far as defensively goes, he is a phenomenal defensive player. Offensively, he's pretty decent. I think that Rojas and Pache are kind of almost the same player for the most part. So I think they're interchangeable. So I think that Rojas did enough defensively to show you that he knows what he's doing out there. I keep him out there. I roll the exact same lineup up.
Yeah, I think it's an easy fix. I think the only kind of things that was kind of weird was there was a big change in the lineup or the batting order. A few different swaps. Bowman, Harper swapped from the Marlins series, and then Stott was moved up, and then JT and Castellanos moved down. Truthfully, I want Castellanos to be more up. I've liked what he's been doing more recently. JT, it's on the road. He's still the greatest hitter in the history of the game sometimes.
Yeah.
But one thing about Stott is I've loved what he's been able to do, and kind of seeing how much Bowman struggled. I want to get Stott higher up in that order. Stott's been hitting with a lot more confidence. Even in the Marlins series, obviously with the grand slam, but he was 2 for 3 tonight, drove in a lot of good hits. I want to get him more of the at-bats.
So here's what the manager side of things you have to worry about. If you start putting guys who are struggling back-to-back, you are almost giving up half innings, right? So by moving Stott down a little bit, there's going to be contact, there may be base hits involved, and it's not a likely out. Whereas right now, not for nothing, but JT's a likely out. You know what I mean? So if you have Bohm, who's doing okay, Castellanos, who's doing pretty well, and Real Muto back to back, and then you're already moving towards the back end of the lineup. So you're talking then about Marsh, you're talking about Rojas. I mean, you're almost looking at a likely 5 straight outs. I think you have to spread it out a little bit, so that you can, elongate innings.
Yeah, I think with the bottom half of the lineup I think Marsh for him is he's a very hot and cold type player. Once he gets going, he's like we saw it last year in the Atlanta series. He struggled a lot throughout the playoffs, but the Atlanta series he really, really stepped up. So I think he will come to go. Rojas to me is really showing that he's a rookie when it comes to the plate.
Sure.
I praised him at the beginning of how great he did defensively, and I still think he will. I don't see that changing. But truthfully, like in the playoffs so far, he's been an easy out. I think he only got 1, maybe 2 hits, maybe a walk in the Marlins series. 0 for 4 tonight. So that's why I'm thinking maybe Pache, because Pache did have a lot of decent at-bats against Miami.
But think back to a certain 2018, right? A easy out at the plate was Carlos Ruiz. But defensively, there were no questions. He was the best catcher in baseball. So again, I think you can sacrifice one spot in the batting order for safe fielding in center. And that's what Max is commenting here, right? I don't think you can take Rojas out of the field. I think that his glove is consistent right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're probably spending so much time here discussing what changes they're going to make, and
don't make them.
Tops them. Yeah, they're going to roll out the same exact lineup. They're going to roll out the exact same defensive alignment. As much as I hate to say, take a slight page out of Joe Girardi's book of it's not broken, don't fix it. The one part you do need to fix is how you use your pitching and your bullpen, because that part is going to break because it's hanging on with some duct tape right now. Unfortunately, everyone stepped up. But the lineup did come through. Even Schwarber had some great at-bats.
Yeah, that double was beautiful.
Yeah. One thing I'm loving about Schwarber, he used to be a home run or strikeout. He's had a lot of good in the park hits the last 3 games.
He's just seeing the ball well.
Yeah. All right, Jed, we're going to keep these shows short because hopefully we're doing a lot more of these.
10 more, Topper.
10 more. Hopefully we're doing this 10 more times.
I mean, I would like to do this 10 more times and not have to sneak in a couple man, they really stunk it up today.
If we got to throw in one of those, but if we have to do this where I can put a certain graphic at the bottom that says "We bleeping champions," I will sacrifice a couple bad shows where we want to, completely blow up.
No, not bad shows. Bad things to talk about. The shows will be magnificent.
Oh, shows will be phenomenal, but the discussions will not be positive.
There you go.
All right. So we will probably be back, I guess, Monday. So game 2. It's Monday. Yeah, Monday. I'm this 3 stretch days of game. We have Phillies, Eagles, Phillies is not too much going on.
I was talking about this with the wife. I remember having sports hangover last October, November, because the Phillies were doing as well as they were. The Eagles were doing as well as they were. And the Union were in the MLS Cup. And I just remember I can't watch another game. And it was right around the time that all the commercials started going a little more political, and I just couldn't listen to another political commercial. So keep it going, and I'll listen to whatever they need me to listen to. I'll watch whatever I need to watch, but good God, I needed the endurance right now.
Well, hey, you know what they say?
10 more Topper?
10 more Topper. All right. We will see you guys all Monday night after game 2.